I'm Katie and I'm really excited to be back on Channel Mum today talking about my experiences of a subject which is something that I feel quite strongly about, and that is the choice of whether to have a VBAC, which is a vaginal birth after C-section, or an elective C-section after you've previously had a C-section in your first pregnancy. So a little bit of background to my story. My eldest daughter was born by elective C-section in December 2010, and she was breech, and basically from every appointment, midwife appointment from about 20 weeks onwards, they kept saying, oh, she's breech, but don't worry, 97% of them turn by the end of pregnancy. And it got to my end of my pregnancy and she was still completely stuck. I could almost feel her at night trying to move head down and she just couldn't. So I was offered, is it called an ECV, where they try and turn the baby, but my midwife had already said that she didn't think it was going to work because she was well and truly stuck. So I declined it, and it was deemed that the safest mode of delivery for her would be a C-section. So she was born on Christmas Eve 2010, and I would have preferred a natural birth, but the experience at the time was amazing, and looking back I have absolutely no regrets whatsoever. She arrived safely and that was all that mattered, and actually overall my C-section was a really positive experience. So fast forward a couple of years and I was pregnant with my second daughter, and almost as soon as I got pregnant I was starting to sort of worry and think, gosh, now I need to decide what to do. Like, do I have a natural birth next time? Do I have a C-section? And looking online, there was so many different opinions and so much advice and so many different stories about successful VBACs, successful natural births, not so successful ones, horror stories, not quite so horror stories, but VBACs that had to result in emergency C-section anyway. And I was just really nervous, and it played on my mind like constantly as to what I should do. I'd also seen online that a lot of people had come up with a lack of support from their midwife or from their doctor because there's almost like, it almost feels like there's a pressure for people to have a VBAC because firstly it's safer, secondly it's less costly for the NHS, there's less recovery time, there's less chance of things going wrong, etc, etc. So I was really kind of nervous. I read up on it all and I was booked in for a consultant appointment towards the end of my pregnancy where I would discuss with them what I wanted to do. And on the lead up to that consultant appointment, I was so nervous, like to the point that it would keep me awake at night, because I had decided that I thought that the best delivery method for me would be an elective C-section, and that was what I decided I wanted. But I was so scared that I was going to come up with opposition or a lack of support from my consultant. And I went into the consultant room, sat down, and the first thing I did was burst into tears. And she looked at me literally like I was crazy, and she said, what on earth is wrong? And I said, I just want a C-section. I'm really, really worried that I'm going to be persuaded into having a VBAC, and a C-section's what I want, blah, 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 blah. And the consultant couldn't have been more supportive. I was worrying for absolutely nothing. She discussed the pros and cons for me, and she's kind of said that a VBAC, generally would probably have been a better option, but she completely understood if I wanted a C-section, and that's what I wanted. I was adamant that that's what I wanted, and she was really, really supportive. She booked me in, and that was that. So I kind of just wanted to do this video just to kind of maybe help anyone who's worried about, you might have already got a baby and you might be worried about having a second baby as to what it means for your birth choice. I read so many different stories, and I know, even friends personally who have had successful natural births. I have had friends who wouldn't have even dreamed of having a C-section the next time round and ended up having really positive natural birth experiences. But I just kind of wanted to give my experience. I don't know why I wanted to have a C-section the second time around. There was no rhyme or reason for it. The only thing I can think is that it had gone well and my daughter had arrived safely the first time round, and I just was wanting it to be a similar experience. I don't know what, it was my personal choice to have a C-section, and what was right for me wasn't right necessarily for somebody else. But I just kind of wanted to give my experience just to say, if you're worried at all about what's going to happen in your second pregnancy, please don't worry. My midwife, just read up on the facts. My midwife was so supportive, and everybody was really, really supportive throughout my whole pregnancy. And ultimately, the decision is down to you, as long as there's no other health issues involved. So yeah, just read up on it, learn from experience, listen to others, and hopefully this video will help if you are worried at all about the thought of having a C-section in your second pregnancy. Anyway, speak to you soon. Bye.